Welcome back to the Professional Lovers channel. I'm Al.
I'm Patty, and we're the Professional Lovers. And yes, we're a day late, but we did it.
Yes.
We're getting it done because we couldn't leave you hanging this week. We have a little bit to talk about. So, if this is your first time here, we are the Conwells. We've been married for 27 years. If you're looking for a different perspective on relationships, you've come to the right place, because we talk about relationship issues through the lens of our favorite show,
Married at First Sight.
Married at First Sight. So that means you are a Married at First Sight fan as well. So let's get into it. Our first couple, Virginia and Eric, who we see have been having some issues over the last few weeks, and they seem to be coming to a head.
Everybody's getting a little tense because, again, you see the finish goal, the end zone, your anxiety. What are we going to do? What are you going to do? How do you feel? Where have we come from? What have we been dealing with? And how are we dealing with it now? Will we be dealing with this in the future? And how will we do then?
So they have a little, a combustible relationship.
Yeah, and the manner in which they tend to address sensitive issues.
Right. He comes across as a condescending daddy, and she has a lot of anxiety when it comes to relationships.
Yeah.
She's been independent. She's been, used to just doing things on her own.
Right. She's been in control of her situation.
Right.
And when she gets uncomfortable, she vacates. She just moves on.
And he, in his desire to take care of her as a wife, a husband wants to take care of his wife, he doesn't communicate that in the best way, because we've talked about before. He has these threatening ultimatums that he resorts to. Well, if you just don't want to, you can just go. And this time, she was like,
fed up with that line.
You say that
one more time,
and I'm gonna sock you or smack you or punch you, or
punch him.
Because that just gets old, and that is not the correct way to handle stuff.
Yeah, either my way or the highway. That's not. And believe it or not, we didn't necessarily discuss this, but I think she may have created a little monster in him, because it appeared that at one point in time during recording, he seemed to be inebriated
when they first woke up.
Yeah, well,
that's what you said. Is he? Is he drunk?
Yeah, that and I'm wondering. I know it looked like, or the way
it looked like it was the morning, but it could have been.
It could have been the evening,
right?
And he might have woken up from a nap because he needed one, because he was inebriated. I don't know, but he seemed a little off center, in his communication.
Now, you also brought out a point when we were talking about it, that his delivery style and his way of thinking comes across as...
Well, there's three elements in his life that made him the man that he is. He has a military background.
Which you know about.
A little bit. I went to a military academy. So it's about orders and structure and, following what you've been told. He's older, considerably older. And in his age difference, he's had additional experiences to the extent of being married before.
Right.
So he has this idea of what he feels marriage should be.
Right.
Because his first one failed, so it definitely shouldn't be that. Not to say that it has to be what he thinks it is, but he knows that it shouldn't be that.
So we've got military, age difference, experience.
Yeah. And that, I believe, tends to come across as a very condescending attitude toward his expression of what he thinks she should be doing in their marriage.
And so that, coupled with her anxiety and inability to really handle stressful situations in a positive way, it's
oil and water. It just does not. Yeah, it's combustible.
Just constantly.
It's combustible.
Yeah. So, we always refer to our book, Becoming a Professional Lover, and we've talked about this tip many times before. Mm-hmm. Settle your differences by meeting each other's present needs. But in that discussion of that tip, it talks about if one spouse is more assertive and dominant than the other, and they're always giving suggestions, and their suggestions supersede the other one's suggestions, after a while you get tired of that.
True.
It's like, True. Your thoughts, your suggestions, the way that you see things, it always has to take a back seat to the dominant person's. And as any person who's trying to assert themselves or assert their viewpoint, you start rebelling. You get tired of that. And that's what I see happening with Eric and Virginia.
Even when relationships may start off that way, and it may be okay, it doesn't necessarily have to stay that way, or it doesn't remain that way, because again, as you grow, you feel more confident, you have ideas, you think about how the relationship can grow. And if you're a subservient individual, or you were, and you suddenly have, not suddenly, but you have grown to have confidence in yourself and what you supply to the relationship, you want to express it, and you want to know that you are now a partner, which you have always been. You have just allowed one partner to be the dominant area or dominant provider in certain areas.
And I don't know if it's always, I just allow it. A person is just, she's been independent, and he just happens to have a stronger personality.
Yeah. No, I wasn't referring to this.
Oh, to them?
Yeah,
okay.
No.
Yeah, because she's strong too. And that's what we're watching happen, is a power struggle between the two of them.
And he has more experience in expressing himself.
Yeah.
Whereas she has more experience
in walking away,
disappearing.
Right.
I don't have to tolerate this. I can go.
Right.
Right. And him giving her that opportunity.
Yeah, that's not good for her.
She did for a dog walk. And it could have been a lot longer. It could be a lot longer, because she just did not need to hear. He doesn't need to express it that way.
Well, because he's not providing her any security.
Yeah.
He's not providing her any security, and her talking about therapy, that would be good.
Excellent.
Therapy would be great.
When the girls got together and they talked, well, two of them talked about having therapists. I believe and I hope that she took that to heart, that knowing that could be a manner in which she can address some of her anxiety and a better way of handling some of the things that are uncomfortable.
Right. Okay. Brianna and Vincent were in a great place last night. We don't need to talk about them except to say that they're so cute.
They are.
And I hope that they're really evolving into settling into understanding
a union,
how to deal with each other.
Yeah.
So, all right. So Clara and Ryan. Clara is still sexually frustrated. And they tried the Tantra yoga, which is good if you're, wanting to get comfortable with physical touch. But it appears that from little comments made, they don't really need to get comfortable with each other physically, because there are physical things that are happening that are just short of intercourse.
And
if she keeps
supplying,
alluding to that,
well, yeah, as well as, in my mind, if she keeps supplying a way out for him, she is creating the monster in allowing herself to be neglected.
Because apparently he's being satisfied
some kind of way,
and she ain't. And on his part, that is selfish.
Yeah. And if he's oblivious of the fact, it's worse than selfish.
Yeah.
Because now your partner has a need that you have no clue about, and you don't understand her attitude because
her frustration,
because there's no way that you don't see
or sense it.
Yeah, her frustration.
And I was talking last night in our discussion because we talk about all of this while it's happening. Men and women do process things differently, right? So women process things. Everything that we think about is connected. So one thought will lead to another thought, which will lead to another thought. It's like the internet. Okay. But men tend to isolate their thoughts into boxes. So I'm gonna think about this thing, and then I'm gonna close that, and then I'm gonna think about this thing, and then I'm gonna close that. Right. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, okay. So Ryan, I said, he takes the idea of box thinking to a whole new level. Like, when I think back to when we met and we started to become friends and we started to explore friendship, you don't put the physical over here and then, okay, I'm only going to think about the mental part of our relationship and work on that. Okay, now I'm only going to think about the emotional part of our relationship and work on that. And that's not how that works. No. You're thinking about all of it. If there's physical attraction, if there's emotional attraction, what it is you're giving the emotional and the mental time to catch up to the physical attraction. And so maybe you don't act on the physical attraction right away, because that is a problem with a lot of couples in society today. They meet, they go to bed, they have sex, and that's what's growing instead of the other stuff. So I understand what Ryan is saying. At the same time, you don't just isolate pieces of the relationship to say, well, I want this to grow deeper before I think about that. I'm going to just put that up on the shelf. And I don't see that being a healthy or realistic way of getting to know somebody.
I think he's entirely too cerebral with his thought of how relationships should build and manifest themselves. You're already married. And again, that is a key element to this existence. And I'm not saying that it needs to automatically happen.
No, and me neither.
It's growth. And you have grown in so many different ways. So even biblically, due to the fact that he has a spiritual background, his parents are pastors, and and I understand that.
I grew up in that, so I get that.
Totally. But there's no excuse not to.
Especially when he's getting something.
And everything he speaks of has been positive.
And he's married.
Yeah.
Okay, let's not forget that. The Christian or the biblical injunction of not engaging in sex is about not being married.
And actually, back in biblical times, if you did not, you were not.
Yeah, so
officially he's still not married, if that's the case.
Yeah, he's gone. He's at the other extreme.
Yeah.
And it's working my nerves because it's working her nerves, but it's working my nerves because, like I said at the beginning, he's getting satisfied and she's not.
Apparently.
And that kind of imbalance is
the epitome of selfishness.
Exactly.
And if it's unconscious, it's even worse.
Yeah. All right, so our next couple, Jacob and Haley.
She won.
They're friends, and they're going to be friends.
Yeah, that's the best they can be.
Until this is over.
Yeah.
I don't see anything happening there. They keep going back to square one after they have little arguments.
Believe it or not, I think it's really unfortunate because their humor temperaments are totally different.
Yeah.
Totally different.
Yeah.
And, she's...
And that must be evident.
In what?
I'm just saying because he said when he was talking to Vincent, she doesn't get my humor. When he was talking to Brianna. Mm-hmm. And when she was talking to Vincent, she's like, I don't get his humor.
Yeah. And yeah, he's wry. He's he's the type that tells a joke with a stone face.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. He's a different kind of guy.
Yeah.
And
again, there's an age difference there too.
mm-hmm.
And yeah, people who know you have lived their lives and they're as old as you, so they've gotten to know you. This has been a month, and I think unfortunately, I think he's had an expectation of what this was supposed to be about.
Yeah. Well, again, with that kind of age difference.
Yeah. And it's nothing against Haley. She hasn't been in a relationship in a while. I almost think that she's still looking for what she wants. I don't think she really understands what she wants.
Yeah.
So in what I'm perceiving as impatience, he's not trying to be a varied type of individual to see what it is that she likes and, what interests her.
Mm-hmm.
And that's part of what Haley's discussion with Brianna was when she was saying, well, when we start to talk about me, he asks a question and that's it.
Yeah, there's no real engagement
right.
when talking about her.
There's no research, there's no search, there's no in-depth conversation about who you are.
And I wouldn't be surprised if that's because, he feels like, well, she's not attracted to me, so,
Why?
like, what's the point? So, hopefully they can just, as friends, carry through the next couple of weeks being friends and having a good time.
And what I really think will happen here is that by the time it's all said and done, and they do say, well, and they're going to struggle with wanting to get a divorce because I really believe that they're going to be comfortable by the end of it all, but they will end up getting a divorce and they will question whether or not they should have.
All right, so our last couple, Chris and Paige. Yay, Paige! Yes! She finally got to where she needed to be.
Yeah. And I hope in her removal from this situation, mind, body, and spirit, that she doesn't look at it as any part of a failure on her part, because it was not. She gave it every opportunity that she should have, that she could have.
She gave it more than she needed to give it.
Really.
And I'm hoping that her newfound, her realization that she matters, that a relationship has to be healthy for her as well, that this is it. Like we're not going to go back to any more waffling, no matter what he does, because he sounded like he was at the done point too. And who knows, maybe they were waffling back and forth because they had to stay on the show and they had to give us something to, talk about. I don't know. But when he was talking to his mom, who looked at him like,
you done lost your mind.
And I was like, okay.
But I really believe, and I hope that in seeing his mother's disappointment in this relationship, because she alluded to fixing and rectifying and
that
mending.
it could have been handled differently.
I feel that I'm hoping that his understanding of even his mother's disappointment in the effort that was put forth in this particular effort will make him think about something other than himself. And the sad part about it is that he does not think that he was selfish in this.
And that's all he was. Even when they were going through and talking about the dogs.
Yeah.
And he was like, I don't give a about Paige's dog. That is nothing but selfishness.
That's crazy. I mean, if I'm interested in you, I'm interested in what you're interested in.
Exactly.
Now, if I don't like it, I disagree with it, I have to find a way to tolerate it if it's part of your package.
Exactly.
And even unless it's something that is life-threatening, I'm allergic or,
right.
I got to learn how to deal with it because it's part of you. And to not understand that and the completeness of a relationship, if that's not understood, then
yay, Paige! That's all I got to say.
I'm happy for her.
So there you have it.
Yeah.
We're done. And we're looking forward to next week as it starts to kind of wind down. What?
Next Thursday.
Oh.
Yes.
Well, maybe that means
we might end up being another day late.
Or we just get it done that night. It's my birthday next Thursday when we normally post. But it's going to be okay. I can post before the day gets started. Or we can just post that night before like we used to. If things don't happen to take us out the routine like it happened this week.
Can we post in our bathrooms? That's another question for another time.
We'll end on that note. Until next week, you guys take care, stay safe, and peace.
Enjoy.